Good afternoon. Today we start our first lesson into human impact, one of the follow up topics to ecology that we did 2 weeks ago now. I do have a few announcements which I will make now, and you can always ask any questions of me if you have any. Human impact is going to be the last unit that we cover this year. It should take us through one of the last units we cover. We might do one more. We're still trying to decide between us. It'll take us through to the end of May, and then we will have some final project to do. You will still have weekly Test Wizard homeworks. There's a new one up there now for you. And we're going to stick to 3 lessons a week. Google Classroom will have all of the dates and times for lessons and office hours. This week it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday lessons, Thursday, Friday office hours. With that being said, today we're going to talk about the human impact on the environment, something we talked a little bit about during our ecology unit before, but we're going to dive into some of the more in-depth things on human impact this unit. We're going to start by reviewing just a little bit some of the natural processes in the environment. Right, we're going to talk about all of these things listed here, just kind of refresh them. Plants, animals, and rain naturally filter the air of any pollution. It helps to balance our oxygen and carbon dioxide. We talked about that in our cycles in the last unit, right? We talked about the gases cycle, the water cycle, and the nitrogen cycle. So naturally in the environment, we have purification and filtering of the air, right? Animals breathing in and out, using their respiratory systems to catch any dust and particles, and then excreting them later. Plants taking in oxygen and CO2, plants taking in CO2 and giving off oxygen to balance out the animals taking in oxygen and giving out CO2. And the rain itself acting as a filter, catching dust and other particles as the rain falls through the air, bringing them down to the ground to clean out the air. The next one is forming soil, which we looked at a little bit with natural succession. We looked at this a little bit with natural succession. As plants and animals die and get broken down by decomposers, as the rain and the water breaks down rocks, it forms these soil beds that then grow and grow and grow. The more animals and plants live and die in that area. The water cycle we've talked about a little bit as well. All the water that exists is here already. It's just getting recycled and reused, evaporating from the planet, becoming clouds and rain, falling back down to the planet, etc. We also talked about decomposers and how they're going to take wastes and turn them back into nutrients, recycling the materials that are stuck inside of the bodies of dead animals and plants, breaking them down and releasing those nutrients, most importantly, the nitrogen that's trapped in there, so that other plants can take that nitrogen and use it to grow. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about energy. All right, naturally in the environment, energy flows from the sun to the plants, to the herbivores, up the food chain. Right, and we've seen that in our food webs, we've seen that in our food chains. This massive source of energy, this sunlight that then fuels every organism that lives in a certain environment. Right, these are all naturally occurring things. We're going to just keep these in mind as we move through this unit and talk about the ways that humans interact with the environment and whether they help these processes happen or whether they impede them. And we're going to look at the effects that we have on the natural world around us. The planet's resources are limited. We have just this one planet, and only the resources that exist on this one planet. Some of them are renewable, right? You can cut down a tree and then plant a different tree to grow and then harvest that tree again later. You can use wind as an energy source, right? That's a renewable resource. We're never going to run out of wind. But there are other things like fossil fuels and minerals that are stuck at the level that they're at. And once we use them all, they are gone and there's no getting them back. And this has been a huge point of contention around like talks of ecology and preserving the planet for years and years. People have been advocating for clean energy, right? Moving away from the fossil fuels that are going to run out eventually, moving away from the oil that is going to run out eventually, to move towards solar power, wind power, hydropower, and nuclear power, just these other sources of energy that are a little cleaner, a little easier to preserve our planet with. Right, so that's another thing we're going to get into as we move forward, right? Looking at the fact that we are mainly using coal, oil, petroleum, these things that can't, well, they have a limit, right? We're going to run out of these things eventually. And without proper preparations for that happening, right? Without us preparing for the eventuality where we run out of these non-renewable resources, we are going to be in some trouble. Right? On the side of renewable resources, we've got sunlight, water, plants, and animals. You can farm plants, you can farm animals, right? You can plant trees, cut them down, plant more trees, cut them down, plant more trees, cut them down. You have infinite sunlight. You have water that is a resource that will always continue to flow. Given enough time, we can always replace renewable resources. Right? But that's not true of our non-renewable resources, our fossil fuels, and our minerals. Right, so again, as we build into this unit, as we build into human impact, we just want to think about how we, human beings, are impacting the planet using our limited resources versus our renewable resources versus our non-renewable resources, and how we impact the overall health of the planet. Humans, us, we affect living things. We impact the abiotic factors and the biotic factors, and remember that's the living and the non-living things in the environment. All the time, right? We are a part of the food chain, but we have kind of morphed everything to suit our own needs, right? We hunt and we fish, we produce cars and factories polluting the environment. We deforest and build for our own sake rather than like looking for a balance with the environment. And all of these things then affect the ecosystems that exist and the resources that are available. Talking about the filtering of the air, we're adding more pollutants to the air that then the environment needs to work doubly hard to filter out. We mess up the balance of an ecosystem by, hunting all the salmon because it's yummy, or, chopping down all of the trees to make paper and to make room for us to then build roads and houses and other things. that then just totally kick animals out of their natural habitats. Right. But on the other hand, humans do have the power to, reduce that impact that we have on the environment. And the three biggest ways are our three R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Right? Nothing new here. Should not be the first time anyone's ever had to tell you that you should be reducing, reusing, and recycling. It's become more and more easier. It's become easier and easier as time goes on to do these things, right? To recycle. Recycling used to be a lot more difficult because we didn't have all the tools than the research that we had done into that topic before. Right, so looking at reducing, right? Reducing our use of resources can come from a number of different things, right? It can come from, turn off the lights when you're leaving a room, don't leave the TV on for no reason, buying the efficient appliances, right? The ones that are going to use the least amount of electricity, trying to use as few individual cars as possible, right? Carpooling when possible, or taking public transit like a bus or a train, and then using using renewable resources instead of non-renewable resources to get your power, which is a thing that you can do. It's a little harder to do in New York than it is in other places. It really depends on the location of the power plants, right? So if you're living near somewhere that has a lot of solar power plants, or somewhere that has wind power or water power, you can, use that power. Tell the electric company that you're going to use, wind or water or nuclear or solar instead of the fossil fuel generating from the plants. Power plants, not like green plants. When we talk about reusing, right, we're talking about having things like a reusable bag, a reusable utensil set, right? Not using plastic silverware, not using paper plates, trying to avoid these single-use items, right? Things that are one-time use are not efficient for the environment. They're not efficient for garbage production. We are moving constantly towards having an item that can be used over and over again, right? Metal straws became a really big thing in the last couple of years, as opposed to plastic straws. Almost everybody has a reusable water bottle now, whereas, in the past that wasn't as common, right? You would just take your bottle of Poland Spring, your bottle of Dasani, and, throw it out when you were done and get another one. Plastic bags is a huge one that we just got those laws passed in New York State about not giving out plastic bags, and more people are using reusable bags for their groceries and for trips to shop. Right, all of those things are helping reduce our impact on the environment, right, by reusing those things instead of having, oh, I have this straw and then I get another drink and I have another straw, I get another drink and I have another straw, and then I'm throwing out 15 straws. And lastly, we're going to look at recycling. Recycling lets us take old objects, right, glass, paper, plastic, and metal, and send them off to facilities that can break these items down and reform them and recycle the material. Right, we can take old bottles and cans and break them down, wash it all out, put it all back together to make new bottles and cans, instead of us worrying about finding the material to make more metal. We already have plenty of metal. We already have plenty of glass. We already have plenty of plastic. We can reuse a lot of the stuff we throw out if it was just recycled correctly. Right, saving us from having to go and mine minerals and mine materials and chop down more trees to make more paper and use petroleum jelly to make more glass. Or plastic, not glass, jeez. Right, we have these options, these ways that we can reduce our impact on the environment. We can help by reducing, reusing, and recycling, right? Turning off our appliances. Use that reusable bag, use that reusable water bottle, and then separate your recycling out and try to minimize the use of plastics is the really big one. As we go forward through this unit, we'll talk more and more about the impact that we have on the environment and some things that are good that we do, some things that are bad that we do, and ways that we can move towards a more harmonious existence with the environment. I'm going to stop us here for today because this is what I wanted us to get through. And then tomorrow we will come back and keep going with human impact. I'm going to transition us over to office hours and tutoring. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please pop in to chat with me in office hours or tutoring. Thank you. Have a great day.